Hello everyone, ARG here. So we got some news yesterday. Out of the Park developments went live on stream to give us the announcement for franchise Hockey Manager 8 and gave us a 1 hour long or just thereabouts an hour long stream where they showed the new things that are going to be in the new version of the game. So before I get started here, down below in the description of the video, I'm gonna go ahead and put the link to their YouTube video. So they did a stream and then they uploaded the stream to YouTube. Gee, I wonder who else does that, right? But so it's gonna be there. So if you haven't seen anything about Franchise Hockey Manager 8 yet, it's gonna be in the link below. Also, the music you can hear in the background, I'm not paid or anything for that, but is from somebody named DJ Cutman. I'm gonna put a link for that as well in case you like the music. Now you're gonna know where to go to listen to that. That's also the same channel that I play in the background when I play Out of the Park baseball online. Alright folks, so there's a few things to talk about. So first off, yes, I will be back for one more year of Franchise Hockey Manager. So I started doing videos on YouTube with Franchise Hockey Manager 6. Then I moved on to Franchise Hockey Manager 7. I got a little bit burnt out in Franchise Hockey Manager 7 and I needed to kind of take a break, and I did. And I think it was for the better because now I feel refreshed and I can announce that I will be playing Franchise Hockey Manager 8. So in the I haven't had a chance to watch the stream, so I cut it I caught up with it on the YouTube channel instead, so I watched the YouTube version of it. And I'm gonna go ahead and talk briefly about what looked like the main points to me, or the things that are more than likely going to be affecting my style of play. For those of you who will be following me again this year, for those of you who have never watched my series, you can find them on my channel. The link should be in the description for that as well, so you can take a look and see what it's all about. So one of the first things that caught my eye, and it came about midway into the video, there's a few changes to historical. Now, as you know, both of my series for the first two versions, they were historical runs around the same era, starting in 1991, right? I did the Ottawa Senators until, I was tired of it, which was 170 videos, and then I did the Tampa Bay Lightning Challenge last year. So what they have changed in historical, it's not massive, but I find it interesting nonetheless. They are making all of those players that enter the league but are not necessarily on your team or in the NHL, they're gonna be in leagues. Now the leagues are not gonna be playable. I understand it's gonna be quite the it's gonna be an undertake. Wait, is that the right word? Anyway, it's gonna be a lot of work for them to get that to where all of the leagues from the past are going to be playable. Hockey has, and I mentioned that several times before, hockey has a very fragmented history, and it's different than baseball, because in baseball, yes, you had like leagues that folded and stuff, but in hockey it spans several continents and everything, and it gets really kind of touchy. So the leagues are not going to be playable, but at least, so in the past, the way that it worked is that in Franchise Hockey Manager, you would have players enter the league and they were all considered free agents, right? So and if you follow my previous playthroughs, you're gonna hear me say a lot that scouting is kind of useless. If for historical, if you know Aki as well as I do for those periods, so I think it's gonna make scouting a little bit more relevant, because you're gonna need to decide where you scout, and now players being into specific leagues and not just free agents, you're not gonna be just saying to your scouts just scout free agents. You're gonna have to choose where you scout, so it's going to affect a little bit. So for people that maybe don't know the history of hockey like from top to bottom, I think that's going to add a very interesting challenge. At least that's how I see it. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot more to the historical play, but that's one change that I think they're kind of setting the table for bigger things in the future. And again, I understand that it's not gonna be in this version and everything. I'm okay with that. I've always been okay with that. I've always cut them some slack about how quick they are to implement some things, because even though I am not a software developer, I've worked in a line of work where I understand the implications that comes with it, and with the size of their team and everything, I understand that it's not gonna happen overnight. So I'm very okay with that. But I think that setting it that way, it definitely sets the table for bigger things in the future. So it's kind of laying a foundation, like when you're building a house, if you would. At least that's how I see that. One of probably the biggest additions that I've seen in that video, and if you go and watch the video you're going to be able to see for yourself, is that they have now added a layer of decision making when you're playing out games. So if you watch my series, or you did watch my series with the Tampa Bay Lightning, I started that series where I would do a live game once a video on the last game of the month, right? I did that for a while, and then I was like, you know what, it takes a while and there's not a whole lot going on in there, and then I just stopped doing it. I think that adding the decision making in it is going to make things a little bit more interesting, and it kind of adds a layer to because the way that they set it up, and I think it's very interesting, is that you're gonna have a player in a spot on the ice, and then they're gonna give you choices like, okay, attempt to pass or skate forward with the puck, take a shot, all those kinds of things. And then you have then there's something where it says that the coachability of a player, and then depending on their coachability, are they going to listen to you? Now obviously, when hockey happens in real life, in real time, the coach is not telling a player what to do in that split second on the ice, saying him shoot the puck, and then, oh, I'm gonna shoot. Obviously, that's not how that happens, but the way that I see that is that it's kind of retroactive. So basically, it's like, I see it like, you had talks with the player about those situations, and what you're suggesting the player to do would he encounter the situation. Then of course you're put into the situation itself, but then there's that coachability thing where it's telling you that his coachability rating is X, and then you kind of have to determine if he will listen to you or not. So I thought it was very interesting, because if you do the games like that, I think it's going to get you closer to your players, and you're going to be able to see who is following the game plan and who is not. So I really, really, really am intrigued by that, and I will definitely be playing with it a little bit. Speaking of which, also at the end of the game, they have added a whole layer of new stats that were not there, and this is so for all of you out there that are not maybe a little bit confused about tactics or something like that. So as you know, I did a tutorial series last year trying to debunk tactics a little bit the best way that I can. Now we're gonna have a tool in game that's going to allow us to see a little bit better who's following the plan and who's struggling in the plan, and tactics, that are you choosing the right tactic for a certain player and everything, because it's gonna tell you all kinds of stuff, like and it's in their video. I really recommend you go and watch that. But for example, it's gonna tell you, well, this defenseman got passed 9 times during the game or something like that, so maybe that the strategy that you have for that particular player defensively is not really suited for their playstyle. So you're gonna have some concrete feedback about how players play in certain situations, so you're gonna be able to, I think, gauge better when changes are gonna need to be made. That's also something that I'm gonna need to play around with to know how it feels, but that's really how I saw it. There's all kinds of stuff, like they kind of added Corsi without really adding Corsi. They're telling you like the shot differentials and everything at the end of the game. So again, you see who was on the ice for the most shots for, most shots against, and then the difference between the two. So that also gives you kind of an idea of who drives the play and everything. And they added a whole layer of more stats, like in league-wise. Like I know there were fights in there and all kinds of stuff. So I think we're gonna have even more tools now, statistically speaking, to be able to tell what our players are actually doing on the ice, and if we need to make changes. I think it's gonna be more evident. So kudos for that. I think that it's gonna be a really good addition. And the way that I understood is that those stats are not only showing up if you're playing out the games or not. I think it's showing up after the sims as well. And then another big thing that looked like it was big, and I have to admit, I really like how they are implementing that. I understand it might not be for everybody. The finance system is having a huge revamp, and that's good. As far as I can tell, and I think that Jeff during the stream mentioned it as well, the way that the financial system worked has been the same since the very first iteration of the game, 8 years ago. So they decided to kind of change things a little bit. So now you're going to be able to change ticket prices and everything. The same kind of stuff that you see everywhere else. But the one thing that I really like that they did is that as much of a stats guy that I am, especially with hockey and baseball, I love stats. I love looking at stats. I love trying to understand things using stats. I'm not a numbers person. Like, math has never been my strong suit. And in games, sometimes I'm gonna feel a little lost with the millions and whatnot, and sometimes it becomes kind of a headache. So at least to me, I know for some people, like, that's their favorite part of the game, and you know what, good for you. I'm not gonna take anything away from you for that. But what Franchise Hockey Manager is going to be doing, apparently, is they are going to be relating everything into finance. I don't remember the exact term, like finance point or something like that. So instead of, okay, you have a budget of 10 million for the year for this one particular thing, it's broken down into points, so it's smaller numbers, and then you get kind of a reports every month where you're going to be able to see the points you have left, and then every month you can decide to spend more points. So it's not dollars per se. So let's say you're allotted 200 points at the start of the season, then in the screenshots that they were showing, you can then select for 1 month to spend maybe 10 points in amateur scouting, and then it gives you bonuses for scouting, and then you deduct 10 points out of your 200 point pool. So the strategy is going to be to be able to manage that pool of points that you have. And I understand that it could be millions of dollars and everything instead, but for somebody like me, that's going to make it a lot easier for me to manage than if you have abstract numbers like millions. I mean, I'm never going to have you know, a stack of $5 million laying right next to me. I'm never gonna have that. So that, you know, I because of that, it's kind of an abstract notion and it doesn't make much sense. But to relate everything down to points, which is a smaller thing, I think it's gonna make a lot more sense for me, at least. So one last thing that they have added that I thought was kind of interesting, I think it's maybe a little bit more minor. They have added something that I believe they called specialties. So your players are going to be able to have kind of like a special perks. So they showed Gretzky, who has 3 of them. Jeff made sure to explain that it's going to be ridiculously rare, like for players to have 3 different perks. Most players won't have any. Then you're gonna have some players with 1. Then rarely you're gonna see players with 2, and then ridiculously rarely you're gonna see players with 3 perks. I think he said they have like 20 something perks or specialties right now. Those will affect how your players play and give them different bonuses in certain situations. So he was like Jeff was explaining, Gretzky has behind the net as a specialty, and you know it's going to increase like his passing vision from behind the net, and then I think his wraparound shots or something like that. So that's another thing to keep an eye on, and I think it's interesting, although I don't think it's going to drastically change how you're going to be looking at players, but you know it's kind of nice that they're adding that. So that's my summary of the video. There's more into it. Obviously, you should go and watch it and judge for yourself. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I will be playing. The game comes out next week. We are today, October 19th. It's coming out on the 26th, so a week from today. And that's why I'm turning to you. So some of you have been following me for Franchise Hockey Manager for a while now. And I would really like to get some input from people that have been following me around, and let me know what you would like to see. Okay, I've done 2 historicals before. Are you tired of historical runs? Do you want for me to play modern day? Do you want for me to play in Europe? Do you want for me to create a fictional universe so that I am a little bit challenged by the fact that I don't know all the players? I mean, I can do you want me to do another historical challenge? I mean, it's really, I mean, I can do pretty much anything. There's only 2 stipulations, so as usual, the first one is very important. I refuse to play as the Montreal Canadiens in any mode, anything. I will not play as the Montreal Canadiens. Sorry, FJ. The other one is that I'm not as familiar with the European leagues. That part doesn't scare me. It's just like some leagues have foreigners limits and everything like that. So if you want for me to start in a European league, I'm open to it, but I'm probably going to need to do a little bit more research and everything so that I feel comfortable with the different rules and everything. Other than that, I'm open to anything. I can do a fictional league if you want. I can play historical, obviously. I can do modern day. That doesn't scare me. I can do pretty much anything. So let me know in the comments. If you don't want to leave me a comment here, you can also send me an email. Should be in my bio on YouTube. There should be a link for my email there if you prefer to contact me like that. There should be a link for my Discord as well. Now, my Discord is not overly used right now, but if you contact me on Discord, some people have in the past, you can send me a message there. I will answer usually within a day, and then we can go ahead and talk about that. I would really like to get some input on what you guys want for me to do. Also, and that's my final thing here, this year I'm gonna try something a little new. I'm gonna be streaming my Franchise Hockey Manager stuff. I've been doing it with Out of the Park Baseball and it's worked okay. I have somebody that follows me religiously in there, and we make roster decisions together and everything, and I think it's kind of cool. I'd like to try that with Franchise Hockey Manager as well. Now, for those of you that only follow me on YouTube, I will always upload everything to YouTube afterwards, so you're still going to be able to watch those, but I thought it would be fun to maybe have a way for people to go ahead and try to reach me or interact with me at the live, and then maybe we can decide on trades together or stuff like that. So just something to think about. So let me know what you guys would like for me to do with Franchise Hockey Manager 8 this year. I'm pretty excited about it. As usual, you can't tell by my face, I am not somebody that just screams happiness through every pore of his skin, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, pretty excited to get the ball back rolling about it. So all of my links that are relevant to this are going to be inside of the description, including my Discord if you want to contact me there. And I think that's enough talking for now. So I'm looking forward to do this. I'm looking forward for hearing back from you guys, that you're the whole reason I do that. And well, starting next week, we're gonna start to see videos for Franchise Hockey Manager 8. Alright folks, that's it for today. So that's ARG tuning out, and until I actually start this, I'll see you guys later. Thank you.